Yes, yes. That's it, man. So like I've done this in front of just like, normal people. And they're like, oh, that's Rain SWV. And then it blows their mind when they realize that beyond SWV, that yes, Mr. Jaco Pastorius actually made this one. And there was another one. I think Chingy did a song with who was that? Tyrese? And it interpolates that same melody. And people they don't realize where it comes from, but that's the OG right there, Mr. Pastorius. Dope. All right. Let's see. I feel like I got another one. Y'all are crushing. This is actually too easy. So we're switching up a little bit. Let's see if I can get some different hands too. So producer trivia. Y'all are. Let me at least read it, man. Y'all got the hands up. Wait until I say who am I, then put your hand up. All right. I'm one half of the Neptunes, member of NERD. I produce hits like Hot and Her, Nelly, Drop It Like It's Hot, Snoop Dogg, Grinding Clips. 2013, my song Happy became a worldwide anthem. And my 2014 biopic, which we actually went to go see in theaters, Piece by Piece, it was animated with Legos. Ooh, over here. Huh? Pharrell. There you go. I am Mr. Pharrell Williams. Still to this day, huge inspiration. Like between him and Kanye growing up, and like Rodney Jerkins, that was like my three horsemen of producers growing up. All right, so wait till I say here am I for the next one. Okay, there we go. Y'all probably, I'm sure y'all know all these. All right, my producer tag says, if Blank don't trust you, I'm gonna shoot. I produce hits like Bad and Bougie, Migos, Jumpman, Drake and Future, and Like That, Future and Kendrick Lamar. I frequently collaborate with Future, 21, and Travis Scott. My album Heroes and Villains showcase my cinematic production style. Who am I? I'm gonna go in the back. Metro Boom and want some more. There you go. All right, and I got one more. Y'all, this is way too easy for y'all. All right, I got one more. I produced Thriller, the best-selling album of all time. I worked with legends like Frank Sinatra, Ray Charles, and Michael Jackson. I composed the score for The Color Purple and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I have 28 Grammy wins. And rest in peace. This is, I'll go in the back. Quincy Jones, the late great Mr. Quincy Jones. Yeah, y'all give yourself a round of applause. Y'all crushed it. Y'all absolutely crushed it. So that's me. I love not only music, but kind of going back and studying the history of music production. And so that's me in the year 2013. And I guess my gown was like basically at my ankles because I'm vertically challenged, man. But I graduated college that day. And like I said before, my two loves were music and technology growing up. I was the kid who I was always fixing stuff, well, the VCR, like when we had like tapes, or fixing the computer. But I'm a PK, so I grew up playing piano in church. And so I was always either playing drums or piano. I played trumpet in band and things like that. So I was always into music and tech my whole life. So I was really torn when it was like my junior year of college. I was either gonna play. I got a scholarship to Florida A&M to play for the 100, or also got a scholarship to come here to State College of Engineering. And so I figured I was making beats enough that I was like, you know what? Like, I don't think I need a degree to like be a producer, but I do need a degree to be an engineer. So I just fell back on like, my degree. And I chose computer and electrical engineering because I love computers. And so that's what I did. My early days. And so this is the free expression tunnel. So I produced tons of music in college, and my man Darius, and three other of my best friends, we started a Christian hip hop group called the Winter Circle. And so I forgot the name of the hall. It's like on Hillsborough, but our first show was there in 2010, which is crazy. Long time ago. Yeah. So our first show was there. It's like a talent show, and what's cool is like we made tons of music, and we got to open up for some cool like gospel artists like Fred Hammond and Dietrich Haddon and Marvin Sapp and things like that. But more so than just the music, it was about getting the reps, making music, and just building some dope friendships that, again, they're still my best friends to this very day after all this time. After I graduated in 2013, I actually worked in the tech field. I was a software engineer for about 6 years. at Fidelity Investments. So I was in fintech, and I was making these front end applications, a lot of charts, a lot of graphs, a lot of data. It was mind numbing, absolutely mind numbing. But I mean, it paid well, right? This is before AI could replace whatever, half baked programming that I was doing back in the day. But again, that's why I went to college. That's why I came to NC State, because I really didn't make any real money in music until I was 30. And so the whole time I'm starting a whole career, I'm able to, finance the gear and all these things while I'm honing my craft. And so all that happened here at NC State. So in 2017, his name is Patrick Mix. He goes by Pat Jr. He also won the Grammy with me last year. But we just started making samples for fun. And like 2017, we were just messing around. So as somebody who plays, I never used samples at all. I thought it was like lazy. I almost looked down on people who sampled, even though my favorite producers were samplers. So, but I was like, I never knew anything about sample packs, but he's like, hey man, like I got these sample packs, and it's dope because, like, if you go sample a Michael Jackson record, you're probably gonna get sued, or you have to pay a whole lot of money to use that sample in your music. But the whole sample pack industry is, a lot of times, it's royalty free, or the royalty is very small compared to like sampling a major record. And so we just started making some sample packs. This sample pack sold 3 copies. We made like $60. And so we got like $30 a piece off this sample pack in 2017. But we kept going because we were just doing it for fun, doing it off the love. And in 2018, we connected with another company, and it kind of took off. It went from $30 to like $1,000. And then next thing you know, um, I was basically torn between leaving my tech job and being a sound designer about a year later, which is completely unexpected. And so that's something, you guys, as you just progress through life and follow your passions, you're not doing it for the money. A lot of times the best opportunities in life are something that you do not for the money at all, right? And sometimes, and whether you're religious or not, whether it's the universe, whether it's God, I think it will kind of direct you where you're supposed to go if you just are willing to listen. And this is one of those things. I was just like, whatever, let's have fun. And once it started taking off and I got really busy, I just followed that path. And it showed me how to merge, for the first time, really, technology and music through sound design, which is something I never considered. And so 2018, we founded Pelham Jr. So essentially, we were working with that company that helped us make a lot more money, but they switched up their business model, because before they were like contracting other producers to make their sounds. Then they realized a lot of their money was kind of leaving. They had to pay all these producers, so they hired their own team. So they're like, hey, we don't need you guys anymore. But if you guys want to keep making music, how about we just connect you with the people that we're connected with? And that's how Pelham Jr. was born. 2018. And what we essentially do, which that's basically most of what I do full time now, is I'm a sound designer. So what we do at Pelham Jr. is we essentially produce for producers. And so growing up, I always admired the producers that made music for artists, but I didn't realize there's an entire industry of producers that produce for other producers. And the sound design industry, because typically when you think of sound design, I always think about the guys doing Foley. They're making cool sounds for like film and movies and stuff like that, which is dope. I would love to maybe get into that one day. But a lot of sound design, if you think about Timbaland, you think about, I mean, shoot, even Quincy, like Hit Boy, name your favorite producer. A lot of times they don't have enough bandwidth in a day to turn out all this music, right? Because music is so fast. Like, people's attention spans really are very short. So they have a team of guys, team of producers underneath them that are just feeding them ideas. So they're just like, oh, I like this, I like that. And then they're just kind of crowdsourcing what's dope. And so I discovered that industry through Pelham Jr. We make the ingredients for music. And we do that with sample packs. And we also sound design for like virtual and hardware synths and things like that. So I always tell people, if I were in the housing industry, I don't make houses, I make bricks, I make wood, I make concrete, and we sell it to the people who actually make houses. That's just what I do, but with sound. One of the coolest parts about being a sound designer is that I get to connect with some of the coolest brands out there. And so we've been able to create partnerships with companies like, you guys use Splice at all? Like if you're making beats, yeah. Image Line, like FL, any FL Studio users here? How many of you guys know what the FL stands for? Okay, bet. Fruity Loops. So I just left from middle school. I was at a middle school this morning talking to like, the kids there, and they have no idea what FL stands for. They was like, Florida? That was like the answer. And when I said Fruity Loops, it blew their mind. They thought it was the silliest thing ever. But they didn't know, actually, like, was it like Kellogg or General Mills that own Fruit Loops? They sued Image Line, and that's why it's called FL Studio. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. They actually got sued and had to change their name. I still call it Fruity Loops. It's Fruity Loops to me. Yeah. But yeah, like we've made sounds. A lot of times they outsource the sound for like keyboards and synths like that. So Yamaha, Native Instruments, Akai, those are some of the partnerships we've been able to forge over the years. The technology part comes in because obviously you record sounds, you make sounds, but now there's a whole distribution platform behind the sounds now. Because before you would go digging in crates if you need samples. But now, I mean, there's still people who like touching the actual physical media, like vinyl or tape or something like that. But most kids, they're just going on Splice, or they're finding some kind of, sample pack, and they're downloading it. And so the distribution really comes down to how people are searching, finding, discovering, and implementing those sounds into their production workflow. And so it could be a third party distribution like Splice, which is the largest, or it could be kind of an in-house solution. So like Image Line, for example, they have something called FL Cloud. And so they're kind of competing with Splice, but they're just offering samples that's directly in the DAW. And so it just works super like easy and intuitive with an FL workflow, for example. There's lots of metadata. And that's the thing where it's kind of boring, but it also requires a technology solution. Um, there's a need for lots of metadata, because in order to find like a kick drum, every sound has to be tagged. It has to be tagged with things like, I don't know, the genre. Is it for jazz, right? Or is it for trap? Or is it like, a bass drum like you might find in a marching band? You have to have all kinds of data, like, is it an 808? If it's an 808, is it tonal? Is it atonal, right? What note is it playing? If it's a melody, what key is it playing? If it's rhythmic, what BPM is it? You know what I'm saying? So there's all this data that's attached to each and every sound that helps you be able to find it in like a search engine or something like Splice. And so what we do is, I actually, to this day, I write scripts to help us name and to be able to organize all these sounds. Because if one sample pack has 200 sounds and we have 250 sample packs, you can see where that would get super tedious. And so you have to find technical solutions to get over the tedious crap that you really don't want to do, so that you can get back to actually creating sounds and those kinds of things. Um, and the other cool thing is like the music industry, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's a lot of like, it's some cool people, but it's also a lot of weird people in the music industry. And so being a sound designer and producing for companies and producers, it allows me to be adjacent to the music industry, but I can kind of jump in, I can work with artists, or I can jump out. And I can still provide for my family without, kissing somebody's butt or trying to make relationships or get publishing deals and all that stuff. So I have a lot more freedom in how I create and what I'm able to do. Yeah, and then some cool stuff along the way, right? So I didn't start making music for awards. I think, most musicians, it would be dope to win an award or a Grammy or something like that. But at the end of the day, it was just me expressing myself. It was me just, I had a dream, I had a passion, and I just chased it. And like I said, I didn't really make any money until I was 30, but I wasn't going to stop making music whether I was making money or not. Like, I'm just really fortunate that God allowed me to make a career out of it. But um, through sample packs, which is a route that I never even considered. But I went from the guy who make loops, and then they're like, "Oh, well, can you help us produce other songs?" And so one of those loops actually became the melody and the lyrics for "Your Power" by Lecrae and Tasha Cobbs. And so that landed me my first Grammy last year. And I've worked with some cool artists and like Kehlani or Big Sean or like Wale, Jacquees, some names like that. I also have some film and TV placements. Like there's a movie called The Forge. It came out maybe last year, and Own and Balance. Those are just kind of like some network placements that we've had. So some cool accolades along the way that just, again, it's just validation of just, being able to wake up and do what I love every day. Cool. So this is where you guys come in, because I know and I believe that technology drives music. It drives the sound. It drives the style. It drives not only the way people create, but the sounds that get created from that, right? You could go through every decade and you could pinpoint, oh, that sounds like the 1920s. That sounds like the 60s. That sounds like the early 2000s, right? They all have their signature sound. Behind every signature sound, you could always pinpoint the technology behind that sound, right? If you think about all the way back, 1800s, the microphone, it allowed us to distribute music, right? Because the microphone and then physical media like vinyl records, right? Now you didn't have to travel in order to distribute your music. You could just sell it. You could just print them and sell it. And then when you combine that with radio, another form of like intangible distribution, so to speak, now record labels actually had data. Now they knew, okay, well, this music doesn't sell as much, but this music right here is really popular. So how about we just make more of this popular music and then we make money? Popular music leads to pop. You know what I'm saying? So the technology actually invented what we know now as pop. The electric guitar, from Les Paul to Fender, right? It inspired blues and rock. Without the electric guitar, we would not have these genres, at least not the way we know them today. The synth, the sampler, right? Synth pop, hip hop, EDM, all of these stem from producers experimenting with these technologies. Auto-tune. So you guys, auto-tune is just a regular thing now. I was here. I was y'all age. I remember my senior year in high school. I'm Sprung by T-Pain came out. And it was, so autotune had been around before then, but it was designed to be a tool to correct pitch, right? He was the first guy who was like, nah, turn the knob all the way up to 100. It's not a correction tool, it's a production tool. He used it creatively instead of just something to fix something in post. I hated that song because I'm like, this dude can't sing. Actually, I found out he actually can sing later, right? But that was his gimmick. And it was so popular, everybody had to copy paste his sound. So for a 10-year span, the most horrible, horrendous music that you will ever hear was the only thing you heard on the radio was just auto-tune turned up to the max, right? But now you got, Lil Baby and Gunna and shoot, Drake, all these artists, we don't even think about auto-tune, but it's an integral part of their sound. And if you ever heard them without it, you wouldn't listen to their music, right? But they sing into it. It's not even something that they put in post. They literally turn it on as they record. They cannot sing or perform without this tool. And you would think that the microphone was a crutch when it was invented, right? Oh, just sing louder. But now it's just accepted. That's just what you do, right? It's just a tool. Autotune became that. It's just another tool in the arsenal. Obviously, DAWs, right? It democratized music production. Back in the day, a lot of people consider like the oldies, stuff from the 70s, the 80s, that was kind of the golden age. It's because you had to be really, really freaking talented to make music. So if you heard music, it was the cream of the crop, right? They had to be great instrumentalists. They had to be great singers, great writers, right? And so you only heard the top 1% of the best people either on the radio or on a record. Now everybody has a DAW. If you got BandLab, you got 1,000 times the horsepower that they were working with in your phone. Now I just left in middle school. A lot of these little kids, they're just singing in auto tune about Roblox, and they're just and but they're making music, right? And so I remember in high school when I got a cracked, like a pirated version of FL Studio. It's like FL3, and it just blew my mind because now I could make beats and I could try to make the stuff that I heard on the radio, by Pharrell or Kanye. Um, and now we look today. Does anybody know who Zanaya Monet is? You heard about it? Yeah. So if you don't know who Zanaya Monet is, she is the world's first AI artist. So the company called Suno, you guys ever heard of Suno? Right? So Suno is a company where they're using AI to generate music. And so they use recordings from real musicians, but they obscure the data because they don't want to get sued. But we know they're just using like licensed stuff from real artists. And you enter a prompt and you can make stuff that sounds halfway decent. And it's still in its infancy. So imagine 10 years from now what it'll sound like. They secured a $3 million record deal for a digital artificial intelligence named Zanaya Monet. They fabricated from this data her voice, her image, right? Her entire persona. They're writing lyrics. And you got guys like Timbaland endorsing it. So it's a slippery slope. And I hope they lose all 3 million of those dollars. But at the same time, that's where we're headed, right? Where let's just cut the artist all the way out. We could just make the perfect artist. But my hope is that just like all these technologies, like imagine when the synth came out or like the sequencer came out, all the drummers are out of jobs now. Like we don't need no more drummers, man. We got a Lin drum or we got an 808. But no, I think it just became another tool. So I'm really believing that AI will just become another tool. And I think it's cool to see how it is helping music evolve in real time. So it's exciting, but it's a little scary at the same time to see in 10 years from now, are my kids going to be listening to a real person or it's Sanaya Monet? Who knows? Cool. So going from NC State to Pelham Jr., thinking about how technology drives music, I got inspired to start a nonprofit called Jump Academy. And so essentially what we do, we use music production as a vehicle to inspire and uplift young leaders in the community. And so it's less about the music and it's more about kids learning how to express themselves, right? Because most of these kids, they might like music now, but they might be into sports next year or whatever. But we're just giving them the tools to express themselves through the thing that I know best and I love best, and that's music production. And it's also for kids who, because I was in band, I did all that stuff, I did piano lessons. But once I found FL Studio and the laptop, that's where I wanted to be. But there was nothing in school that allowed me to do that thing. I had to go on YouTube and get literal books to figure out how to do it. And so why Jump Academy? Because it's an opportunity for me. And as you guys, you guys go through school, you guys want to find careers. Um, Everybody in this room is here because we love music, right? And so it's our responsibility that as we pass the torch, we need to make sure that music is in good hands, right? So that the next generation can not only understand music, but they can appreciate it. And they also don't let Zanaya Monet take over the world in the music industry. And so it's our opportunity to mentor the next generation of producers and musicians and also give them the tools to express themselves creatively. Because even though you can use BandLab in your phone, not every kid has access to that. Not every kid has access to a MIDI controller or monitors or a MacBook or a PC or even the information. You could go on YouTube, but it's always something about knowing an actual person who can sit down and show you like how to make stuff. And once they learn how to make music, they're off to the races. And so I wanted to create here in this community what I wish I had growing up. And that was actual mentors and teachers and friends, because I didn't know any other friends that really made beats growing up. Not until I got to college did I meet other producer friends. But I find out later, years later, oh wait, you were making beats too, But if there was some community of people that just thought, making beats was dope like I did, I thought that would be cool. So that's what I wanted to create. And that's what I'm trying to build with Jump Academy. So this is Quest. He's in 8th grade. So I've been mentoring him for the last 2 or 3 years. And we're just like scrolling through some drums. But you could tell he's vibing out to it. Like, yeah. And he's doing at 13 what I was doing at 18, which is crazy. So this is kind of stuff that brings me joy. And I'm grateful to be able to do it bigger and better with more kids in this community. So his name is Quest Allen. He goes by Jackpot. So excited to see where he goes as he enters high school. Here's just some pictures from our summer camp. So for 2 weeks, we had kids 10 through 14 come in, and we had some instructors from Shaw and from Wake Tech, and we taught them like intro to piano. Some kids already knew piano, but some kids had no music theory experience at all. So we tried to level set everybody. So we did piano, we did creative writing, music theory, and production. And we had 4 classes, and we rotated between them. And so throughout the 2-week process, we taught them how to write, record, produce their own song. We put them in teams. And so they had to collaborate with their peers. They had to write the lyrics, and they had to create a song with their peers. And at the end of the 2 weeks, we had essentially a listening party. Their friends and their family came, and they got to listen to the final product. And they got to get on stage and essentially, rock out to the songs that they produced, where 2 weeks prior, they had no experience producing before that. So that's my son, Kai. I guess he got away with being like, younger, but he's making, so we use Studio One. But we use pretty much any DAW from FL to Ableton. Who's Logic. I like Studio One because it integrates well with Splice. We do use Splice because, again, every kid doesn't know how to play an instrument. So if they could just grab a sample, you could just kind of fast forward the melodic part of making a beat and just teach them about the structure and how to record and things like that. And that's Elijah. He's down there recording vocals and things like that. On top of that, we also did music theory, like I said. So we're reading, we're writing, and we're taking a lot of the beats that we're making in Studio One, and we're trying to get them to actually notate their beats. And so it's a cool way to try to connect some of the stuff that they might think is boring in music class to the stuff that they listen on the radio. Can you notate, this Metro Boomin song? You know what I'm saying? And so we're like, oh, okay, I never thought about doing that. And so those are some of the exercises we did. They had group names. So they had like like the Neptunes, right? So in their groups, they came up with a name. So they were called NLE, which I don't even know. It was just like the first letter of their names. But we had 4 groups, and we did a professional photo shoot with them so that when they got on stage, they looked the part too. They felt like real, and well, they are real producers now. And that's our class. So these are all the students, and that's our staff that was with us this summer. Everybody got certificates. This is during our listening party. And yeah, it was just one of the dopest experiences ever. Going from the kid who just loved making music, just being able to gift that to these other kids and just see, because man, they made some dope stuff, and I can share. It's like a Google Drive with the songs. If y'all ever want to listen to what these kids came up with, like I could share with you, and you can distribute it. Like crazy how dope it was. And I think some of the kids who had no experience, they actually make some of the dopest stuff, just because they weren't like boxed in by a certain way of thinking. It was really cool. Cool. In conclusion, we talked about technology and how it will continue to shape and innovate music. And it's really dope to be here today because all of you are the next wave of innovators. You think about how technology has brought music to where it is today. Now, you guys are the very people, either through your art or through, the technology, the instruments, the work that you do. And it doesn't have to be an instrument. Think about like Dolby, even how we interact with music, how we consume music, right? you guys are shaping the future of where music is headed tomorrow. And whatever your passions, I just want to inspire and encourage you to always try to chase your passions. And if you got more than one, try to find the intersection, because that intersection is unique to each and every one of us. And where you're going to be most effective in the world and in your life, it's going to be where that intersection is. Right. So thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me.